And then I happened to look at my email list one day, and I'm like, oh my God, Michelle Tesoro reads my newsletter. Like, it was just, it's like, I blushed and I was like, oh my God, I was so embarrassed. It was like I had been passed a note in study hall that you liked me. I was like, oh my God. So what I want to talk about is why. This is going to bring me to telling kind of an embarrassing story that you've never heard before. But I don't remember exactly when it was. I think you alluded to it was maybe in 2019. I was either in the middle of finishing up House of Cards or I had just seen On the Basis of Sex. I'm not sure which one it was. But I was very well aware of you and had done some research on you. And then I happened to look at my email list one day, and I'm like, oh my God, Michelle Tesoro reads my newsletter. Like, it was just, it's like I blushed and I was like, oh my God, I was so embarrassed. It was like I had been passed a note in study hall that you liked me. I was like, oh my God. So what I want to talk about is why. Why did you subscribe to my newsletter, and what brought you to me? Because there was a very specific episode and story that resonated with you.
Yes. I think there was a newsletter that came before that specific story, which we'll get to, about how you can, I think it was about focus. You had something about focus and, how you can, I kind of just jived with some of the things that were on your blog, like, deep work and kind of doing your work and trying to maximize your day and your time and like physically taking care of yourself, and then I think I just sort of started listening to the podcast, and I can't remember. I think the Roger Barton one. Yeah, that one was the first one that I listened to. So, and, I didn't know what it was going to be about really. But, because I was in New York at the time, I was doing a lot of podcasting, and I had gotten an apartment in Chelsea. So I had about a mile, or no, it was a 2 mile, 2.5 mile walk, which was about an hour. Perfect for podcasts. So, and I was listening to it, and he was, talking about his life and talking about, all the hours and the hours away from his family and all this stuff. And, of course, he talked about how he was able to use this other, it was the thing about Evercast, right? So he talked about Evercast, and I was like, oh, maybe if I can get Scott to, let's see what this is. Because, here I am in New York, because we're doing post in New York, because Scott lives in New York, but production is actually in Berlin. And they've been in Berlin for weeks now. And geez, I left home and I'm in New York, and why am I here? I'm making great money, obviously, it's a distant hire. It's like I was just banking all that money we're trying to save. And in my mind, I actually knew, because I had done this with him before, that I knew that my tank was going to be empty, and I wanted to take the fourth quarter off. So I was banking everything that I could so that I could force myself not to take a project. So, and then I saw this, and I was like, oh, I don't know, maybe he'd be interested in working this way, and maybe I could buy some time where I could stay home, or I could stay home and work and not have to move, for so long. Because, on Godless, I did 13 months in New York, and Queen's Gambit, it was a little less than a year. And we did it. And of course, Scott actually fell in love with this idea of doing it, because of course he had his own thing. Oh, do you think I could do this from Connecticut? Can I do this from Martha's Vineyard? And like, and don't get me wrong, we love each other's company for sure. But all of a sudden, our worlds opened up to, we can kind of feed our introverted selves that doesn't really like going places, and but still do the thing that we want to do. So but yeah, I think I just got to that point where I'm like, I need balance, because I was engaged. I was still trying to sort of learn how to balance having somebody else in my life, and I no longer could really make decisions without talking to somebody else, because it affects him now.